Hello and welcome. My name is Waleed Mir. I'm a Microsoft Technical Trainer here to walk through the Microsoft SC-300 Identity and Access Administrator Associate course with you. Imagine this. An attacker has breached your network, but instead of launching a noisy attack, the intruder quietly moves from system to system using legitimate credentials, blending in with normal user activity. Would your current security tool even notice? Well, this is where traditional defenses often fail, and where Microsoft Defender for Identity steps in. It's like having a security analyst who never sleeps, constantly watching for subtle signs of compromise that others miss. Microsoft Defender for Identity detects threats by continuously monitoring users and device activities within your on-premises Active Directory. It uses behavioral analytics to establish what's normal for each user and device, then look for the suspicious deviations, like unusual logins, unexpected resource access, or abnormal administrative actions. Defender for Identity is also tuned to recognize specific attack techniques throughout the kill chain, such as pass the hash, reconnaissance, lateral movements, and privileged escalations. When it detects something suspicious, it generates real-time alerts with context and recommendations, helping security team quickly investigate and respond before an attacker can do serious damage. Now, typically, when you're implementing Defender for Identity in your environment, you'll have to ensure that this is going to be looking at your identities that live on-prem. So this is not necessarily a solution for your identities that are in the cloud under Entra. So you're going to have on-prem Active Directory. So this is something very important to understand as part of the implementation, that you are going to configure this from your cloud, from your security tools, but you're going to configure this on a device on-prem that has access to Active Directory. Typically, because it's looking to secure all the resources that are on-prem. It can also help you protect other types of malicious activities or detect malicious activities, such as a rogue DNS or a rogue resource that's on-prem and is pretending to act as normal. So it can also bring your attention to that. Now, for you to be able to implement some of this, let's have a quick look at our portal to see how this would work. I'm back into my browser, and this time we're going to jump into looking at security.microsoft.com. And we are jumping onto our Defender portal to log in to my security portal to configure Defender for Identity. Now, typically when you're configuring Defender for Identity, you'd need to go into the settings for Defender for Identity and start configuration of your Defender for Identity solution. For this, you would need to download a sensor. Let's have a look at that on the browser to see where it is. Now, I am logged into my Defender portal. In Defender portal, identities right listed over here. This is where my Defender for Identity is showing me all the information about identities that are managed in my environment. Now, in an ideal world, this should show me an indication of all the identities that are on-prem, either in a hybrid state or on-prem, and telling me all the information about how secure they are and if there are any non-threats and any recommendations that I can improve. I currently don't have any setup configured to this, so I don't see any hybrid users or on-prem users. So how do I begin in terms of doing that? Well, first of all, I am going to scroll down to the blade for my Defender portal and look under Systems and go into Settings. Now, once I am in the Settings tab, I should be able to look for Defender for Identities, just listed as Identities, and I can go into configuring some of these details. Now, one of the very first tab under the general area is called Sensor. Now, this is what I require to implement onto my resources on-prem where I have my Active Directory environment running. So this is where I should be able to go and add a sensor. Now, it's important to look at the information that's been provided where it tells me that be aware that currently this would be okay if you are already working with a Windows server that's 2019 or above. So I don't need to go and install this. I can simply activate that on the server that's of that version. Now, if you have a previous version of Windows Server and you still want to do this, you can simply follow the classic sensor option and work with that. Now, if I was to click on classic sensor, typically it'll give me an option to download an installer file and an access key that I can use to provide as part of the installation of that resource. Now, again, all you'll have to do is download this, take it to your server where you have your Active Directory installed or configured, and configure this installer there. Once this is installed and configured using the access key, you should be able to see your Defender for Identity configured right here to tell you that you have an Active Directory that's configured in here using a sensor. And this is where it will help you track some of these resources as part of that setup. Now, while we are in here, a very quick few things to point out. While you're defending your on-prem resources, there might be situations where you might want to exclude certain resources from Defender for Identity to pick up. Well, why would I want Defender for Identity to pick up some security threats? Well, this is where we can talk about very briefly on what honeypots are. Now, typically, this is a honey trap where I'm luring any attackers to come in and perform different activities, malicious activities, where I can track their movements and their methods of what they're trying to do and what they're trying to achieve. And I can monitor all of that. Based on some of that, I can learn in how I can defend my existing environment, or if I have any defense mechanisms already in place. Now, if Defender for Identity doesn't recognize these as honeypots or honey traps, it might start defending those actions already, which we don't want. So it would be a nice thing to come into my honey tokens over here and define any users or devices that are part of that honeypot that I'm creating in my environment. So that could be a very nice setting that goes along with it. And with that, we'll come to the end for this topic. We encourage you to review the reference modules, check your knowledge with the additional study materials, watch other videos in this course, or search out your next favorite topic on Microsoft Learn at aka.ms/learn. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video.